Hello and welcome back. I'm Mr. Jacobson, and as usual, this is the channel where I spend sums of money on watches so you might not have to. And today I offer up the Cadisen something or other, but it is colloquially known as the Cadisoak. This is the old model and is discontinued, but for reference, I got one all the same. Since this model of the Cadisen something or other is discontinued, there is no official information about it. It is now replaced by a different model, and we will get back to that a little later. For now, here is the unboxing, where the box has a paper outer sheathing and a, might I say, very nice black cardboard box with a croc texture to it. And then you have Cadisen and a logo on the front in silver. The logo is a good one, in my opinion. And, as usual, let's just take a closer look at it. The specs are as follows, as measured by myself. The diameter is 46 millimeters, which is more than sizable. You have a thickness of 14 millimeters, which is fairly sizable. You have 52 millimeters lug to lug, and the bracelet width is 24 millimeters. However, you cannot really switch it out for something else, so you'll have to just live with it. It is quite easy to regulate though. You get sapphire glass, a display caseback, and a water resistance of 100 meters, which is not enough to really scramble your brains underwater, but according to Cadisen's official card, you can go snorkeling instead. The dial is matte black and looks very classy. The whole dial has a slight dressy feel to it rather than sporty. The date window is circular, with a little silver accent, for instance, adding to that dressy effect. The hands are swords-ish, and the second hand is a very sharp-looking arrow. There are applied indices, but even though you might think there is lume here, there really is none to speak of. Legibility is okay, but since there are no minute markings, it's not that precise at first glance. The bezel, which is sort of the centerpiece, is a soft decagonal shape and is brushed with polished sides. I have to say that the finish on this watch is something that demands attention. The case is brushed, but with some polished details on the lugs. The bracelet is very generously brushed too, as you can see. This really looks like some proper brushing has been done. It looks very sharp. The bracelet has a butterfly clasp that works fine and clicks into place very easily. Overall, a very solid feel, and especially for the price that you pay for it. The NH35 movement takes away like the workhorse that it is through the windowed caseback, and even though it isn't the prettiest movement in the world, it is something to look at least. Overall, the watch is quite simple. It's easy to look at, and not something that will bore you in the near future. There really isn't that much going on, no color details or accents, just a very clean design. I have to say though that this, to me, doesn't look like a Royal Oak at all. You have notches in the bezel instead of screws, the bezel itself is decagonal rather than octagonal. The second hand is also quite different. I'm saying this because though it is obviously inspired by the Genta ingenuity, I still feel that this watch stands a bit on its own. The difference between this watch and, for instance, the Pagani design Submariner homages, brilliant as they are, is that this does some things for itself. I will admit that I'm not crazy about the Cadisen name on the watch. I would have preferred the very enticing looking logo from the box. The text makes the watch look a bit cheap. And the thing is that this watch doesn't feel cheap when you wear it. It has weight. It has a lot of presence. This is not a hollow piece of plastic, I can tell you that much. So here it sits on my 19 centimeter, 7.48 inch, or 0.000944 furlong wrist. It's a very, very large watch. And with its 46 millimeters, it is a giant behemoth. It will slip under your shirt cuff with ease, but as you can see, even for a large wrist as mine, it does tend to take over. Therefore, it is not a watch for a mid-sized wrist, which is a pity, because the watch in itself is really quite brilliant. And for the price of $69 that this cost before it was discontinued, it is basically a steal. Ridiculous, like the Pagani design. Absolutely ridiculous. However, as I said in the beginning, this model is discontinued and replaced by another model that basically looks like the Royal Oak with an octagonal bezel, but it still has a different second hand and the equally sizable diameter. The price has increased to $79, but even at that price point, this is another one of those no-brainers. This time you also get to choose whether or not you want a bracelet or leather strap. I feel that I must get one. In the name of science, of course. Because I enjoy this watch. And despite the Cadisen font cheapening the looks of it, it will remain in my collection. I admit that even I feel it's a bit too large for my wrist, but One thing that I do want to say though is that the bracelet, as regulated by me, feels just a little bit too big. If I remove another link, it'll be too small. So fitting isn't optimal, but it works. Anyway, if you can find one secondhand, get it if you have the wrist that can support it. Otherwise, avoid, because you will find that it is simply far, far too enormous. So, thank you all so much for watching. You're fantastic, as usual. I'm Mr. Jacobson. Take care out there, and the next adventure is just around the corner.